to another exciting edition of our Disney series here live from the Casa de Kincaid Studios in Mustang, Oklahoma. It's Midwest Reviews. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hoppus, and to my right is your other co-host, Kellen Kincaid. And today, we are going to be looking at the top 5 most interesting attractions at Disney World.
Alrighty, and these are in no particular order. We just wanted to go ahead and because it'd be kind of hard to put these in because they are rather unique and different attractions. It's like trying to say which is better. Not necessarily, these are in no particular order. So just to throw that out.
And then what we mean by unique as well is it's not necessarily condensed into one specific theme. So I mean, we could have a ride, and we could also have an attraction that's not a ride. It could just be a show.
And some of these on here, actually, like three of the 5 are no longer around.
Yeah.
These are past and current attractions that we have.
Exactly.
And some of the past ones, I think that's why we have these on here. Now, I say 3 out of the 5, but one of them halfway is. But we'll get to that one eventually. Well, sir, would you like to start us off with our number 1 pick?
Yes, indeed. Our number 1 pick, actually, this ride debuted back at the 1964 World's Fair, and it is entitled Carousel of Progress. It was actually Walt Disney's very first ride to feature animatronics. And you were saying something to that before Carousel of Progress.
Before Carousel of Progress, one of his earliest animatronics, actually I think his first was Mr. Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln was the test bed for them to go on and create the animatronics for the Carousel of Progress.
Yes, and what's neat about Carousel of Progress is the stage itself is static, but what's really cool is that you're sitting in a seat, but the whole rows of seat, they all kind of move. That's hence why it's called Carousel of Progress. So you're basically being moved around through time. You're seeing the progression of things happening in our world.
And I know the first one's in the 1890s.
Yeah.
And then I think what it does is it moves to the 20s, the 40s, and then it moves into an 80s fever dream version of the future.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty hilarious. I mean, when you do ride the ride, you do it kind of makes you laugh because you see, this is the way the world thought that the future would look like in the 1980s, and ironically, the stuff that they predicted is actually what we see right now.
Flat screens
and
VR headsets
are
pretty
pretty accurate.
And there are some appliances now. They in the future version they have the oven that's voice commanded, but now I think LG has like a refrigerator that responds to voice commands. So it was the wrong appliance, but that's stuff that we do see.
So another neat aspect of Carousel of Progress is the theme that they used. And you want to tell us about the theme?
Yeah, I've done a lot of research into it, and the actually theme song is, I know for at least once, has been changed. If it wasn't Eisner, it was definitely Bob Iger that said we need to change the theme back to the original deal, which the original song title was It's a Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
Yeah, which was, I believe, written by the Sherman Brothers.
Yes.
Alright, so now we're going to move on to our number 2 spot, which is...
And this is one of my favorites. Now, I'm pretty sure I wrote it as a kid, but I don't remember it. But this is one that has a large fan base that really wants it to come back, especially over what replaced it. And that is Horizons. Now, Horizons was it was actually... officially the sequel to Carousel of Progress, because the family that you saw going through the events in Carousel of Progress, it has now skipped ahead. The parents are now grandparents, and their children now have children of their own. So, but it's still narrated by the original mom and dad, the ride through. And so anyway, it was really interesting because instead of looking at a past theme, the Horizons actually looked in the opposite direction of Carousel of Progress. It looked towards the future, but it was actually meant to be a legitimate try and look at the future, and it was really more of a if we can dream it, we can build it. That was their tagline, and so they were talking about futures of agricultural societies in space, cities under the water. I mean, it was just a pretty cool ride, and Horizons is actually a much bigger building than Mission Space, but there was a sinkhole that was starting to make the building unstructurally safe. So anyway, that's kind of why they demolished it and put in a new ride. But Anyway, all right. Well, on to number 3.
Okay, so in 1986, they had a ride that they put in at, I say a ride, it was actually a theater attraction. And it was in Epcot, and it was in the
Imagination
Imagination Pavilion Theater. And the ride was called Captain EO. Well, basically the theme of Captain EO was Michael Jackson versus the Borg from Star Trek, basically.
Well, yeah. Funny thing is George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, is the one that came up with this concept. And this was, when it premiered, it was pre-Star Trek's attempt at the Borg.
Well, in the midst of Captain EO, Disney ended up releasing a motion picture, a live-action motion picture called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And so, in keeping with the popularity of that movie, Disney World was thinking of how can we come up with our next attraction with that theme in mind. Well, what they ended up doing was replacing Captain EO with a new attraction in that same theater called Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. What was interesting about Honey, I Shrunk the Audience was basically it was like you were going to an award show for inventors, and the person that was receiving the award was Wayne Szalinski. The premise obviously was you're sitting there in the audience watching Wayne Szalinski receive his award. Well, he goes to demonstrate his shrink machine, and it goes haywire as it does in the first movie. Something happens, it glitches. Well, all of a sudden, you as the audience, you're the ones that get shrunk, and so now they have to figure out, we got to get these people back to normal size. And in the meantime, you got rats that they end up trying to clone that are coming by you. You have a snake that comes at you in 3D, because this one was in 3D. And then there's another really kind of gross, but also kind of interesting at the same time, was there's a scene where it feels like you're being smelled by Quark, the dog, and then when he sneezes, they had these little sprayers on the back of the chairs, so they would spray on you at the moment that he sneezed, so it made it feel like you got dog snot on you. And actually what was interesting was they added that ride in all of the major Disney World parks around the world. And the interesting thing is in Tokyo, instead of calling it Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, they called it Micro Adventure. I don't know why, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. But so that stayed open till about 2010 when it was replaced with Captain EO again. Moving on to our number 4 spot on the list.
Now, this is the one that we talked about that's halfway still there, is the safari in Animal Kingdom. And originally, there's a version of the safari that was much different than the one that there is today. And what happened is in the original safari, it's gone through a couple different iterations. It had a subplot that you were going on trying to catch these poachers, and they'd shoot back at you. And there was literally a prop of a dead mother elephant and like a captured baby elephant, and it was very graphic, and there was a large outroar over the original iteration of this ride. So Michael Eisner ordered the dead mother to be removed, and slowly over time, other parts of this plot that were in the safari were removed until it is what it is today, just actually looking at the animals. Now, I remember a iteration of this ride. The original one actually had cast members with a fake gun pointed at this truck that's supposed to be the poachers. Which like Disney, that you don't see that, and especially like the dead mother elephant.
Yeah.
The version I went to is the plane that was supposed to be working in tandem with the truck you're in had blocked in the poachers, and there was a cast member there saying, we got him, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't ever see the original version of this ride, but basically they eventually just took away the fake storyline, and I've gone it enough times as it is now that I'm okay with it. I can actually skip it. If it's still on the plot, I'd probably do the same thing, just because the plot didn't add that much to it, and I think that's why they originally took it away. It is cool to see the animals on the savannah.
So, and best time probably to go on this ride also is early mornings, and now that Magic Kingdom has instituted like a new nighttime hours, they do have a nighttime safari that they've introduced. So I don't know how the animals are. I mean, surely they're probably some of them are awake, but but that's something to think about too.
Probably ties in with Avatar
It,
Lands.
it probably
nighttime.
probably
Because
does.
the Animal Kingdom never really did stay open at night because I mean they were putting the animals up
Yeah.
and stuff. But now with Avatar Land, they probably are raking in the cash because they're getting beat by Universal. But
Yeah.
anyway, okay. So for our last one that we were going to do, our number 5 pick. This is one that Cameron and I both like.
Okay, number 5's pick is Living with the Land.
Living with the Land is like the purest example of what Epcot's original ideals
Yes,
embody.
thank you. Yes.
It's like the untainted baby. Like I said, it is the purest version of what Epcot was supposed to be originally.
Yeah, and so they basically took the concept of cultivating, vegetation and things, and they basically took, another step or the next step, I guess is what you would say. But they, instead of having everything planted in ground, they had most of everything planted in basically like pipe systems. And I think they call that, there's a term they call that.
Aeration.
Aeration, yeah, and so where they basically just run water through it constantly.
Now they do
And,
have a large part of the greenhouse that's buried in sand as opposed to normal.
Yeah,
sand.
that is true. They do that too. And the other fun fact, one of the other fun facts is the fact that they actually have a walking tour that you could sign up for as well. So, and there's parts that you can see where they do the walking tour while you're riding the ride itself. But you can obviously get out and do those if you so choose.
Well, and I gotta say that while I like the ride, I'm not into botany. Is that
Yeah.
the correct term?
I don't
Plants.
know, maybe.
Anyway, whatever. I'll put a caption up or something that's the correct term for plant horticulture. There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the behind the seeds tour, is I mean for people that are really into that stuff.
I see what you did there with the behind the scenes.
Well, see,
it took me a few seconds, but I got it.
I didn't come up with that. That's a Disney original. They are the ones that came
Oh,
up.
okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
but it's just kind of a slow, relaxing boat ride.
Now that one is a good one to cool off on. That one there's no really outside. So that one actually is a pretty much contained. Ride it any time of the day. If it's hot outside and you just want something to cool off on and relax. Perfect for taking a quick nap if you want.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's at night especially nice.
Yes.
So anyway, that was our top 5. Just to recap, it was Carousel of Progress,
And then it was Horizons.
and then 3 was Honey, I Shrunk the Audience / Captain EO,
And then the original Safari.
and then number 5 was Living with the Land. So anyway, this is just there's actually going to be a part 2 to Unique Attractions of Disney. So anyway, make sure to tune in for that, and we will see you guys in another review.